Good afternoon, I'm Karen Holmes Ward. Welcome to Cityline. The migrant crisis reaching yet another tipping point, with more than 2.2 million migrants crossing the border since last October. Resources stretched thin in border communities and in cities across the U.S. Now, Democratic mayors and governors are calling for federal action on employment, housing, and slowing down the flood of asylum seekers to their states.
What we're seeing is now a massive increase in a migrant surge that's taking place. And obviously, it's unsustainable for Eagle Pass.
Daily border encounters are topping nearly 8,500, according to ABC News sources. Mexican officials are reviewing this video, which they say shows hundreds of migrants trying to enter the U.S. And from the border, thousands of migrants are getting bused to cities across the country, creating conditions that are increasingly unsustainable. New York City's mayor telling migrants not to come as he toured Latin America earlier this month.
Our hearts are full and endless, but our resources are not.
With the number of migrants arriving at the border showing no signs of slowing down, the Biden administration is under pressure to act.
There have been presidents, both Republican and Democratic, who have been unable to make any transformative change. And at the end of the day, for there to be transformative change at the border or in terms of immigration policy, there has to be legislation passed.
Massachusetts is sheltering thousands of migrants, many living in hotels and motels in dozens of cities and towns across the state. Local officials asking the administration for a federal team from the Department of Homeland Security to assess the situation.
We're just going to continue with that because at the end of the day, it's a federal problem. It requires a federal solution. In the meantime, the states are bearing the burden.
Senator Ed Markey says the Biden administration is looking for ways to find the funding.
The Biden administration knows the magnitude of the problem. I'm in communication with them, as is the governor, as is our entire delegation.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley calls it a humanitarian crisis, adding state taxpayers shouldn't be forced to pay for the failures at the federal level.
Massachusetts taxpayers cannot be asked to foot the tax bill for what is a national crisis. And that is why we do need more federal investment and support.
She says the federal government needs to move forward on work authorizations for more people.
We need to redesignate a TPS status for Haitians and Haitian migrants the same way we have for Venezuelans. We need to expedite work permits.
The Biden administration is granting temporary legal status to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans seeking asylum. It lets them live and work here legally for 18 months. Governor Healy wants that for more people.
It's just not going to be enough to do what we need to do here in Massachusetts. We've got people who are coming from a number of countries. I appreciate the president's actions, but it's not enough. We need we need work permits, work authorizations. We've got to speed that up.
And joining me now is Sarah Sherman Stokes of Boston University School of Law and the Associate Director of the Immigrants' Rights and Human Trafficking Clinic, and Elizabeth Sweet, Executive Director of the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, or MIRA. The Department of Homeland Security granted temporary protected status, or TPS, for more Venezuelans. That means that TPS holders cannot be removed or detained by DHS for immigration status and are eligible for work documents and travel authorization. Sarah, what is involved in getting that status for more migrants?
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me, and thanks for this question. Temporary protected status is a designation that's given to nationals of certain countries that allows them to live and work in the United States for 18 months, as you said, without fear of deportation. The federal government could extend this protection, and I think should extend this protection to nationals of other countries who are here because they're fleeing war, political instability, natural disaster, particularly the many Haitians that have made Boston their home in the last several months.
Elizabeth, let me ask you, how will more TPS designations ease the migrant crisis in Massachusetts and other cities?
Well, as you've already referenced, the grant of temporary protected status gives an individual the ability to work, and often the ability to work much faster than some of the other pathways that individuals coming here may be eligible for. And so, right now, when we have such an overburdened social services system and housing system, having more individuals that are able to work and then start contributing is going to help take the burden off the state and federal resources.
But why is there a roadblock here when the state and the country, for that matter, can tackle two of its largest issues, a migrant crisis and a labor shortage? Elizabeth?
It's a great question, and I absolutely agree with you. And we advocate every day for these kinds of changes for exactly these reasons. The reality is that most immigrants come here wanting to work, and we have a huge labor shortage here in Massachusetts that those immigrants can help us address. And yet, work authorizations are a federal issue, and it's decided by federal immigration law. And so my organization, the MIRA Coalition, advocates for comprehensive immigration reform, which we haven't been able to see out of Congress in many years. And so
I think 30 years was the last time there was any change in the immigration law, 30 years ago. Let's talk about the right to shelter law. Last month, the mayor of Woburn was quoted as saying that the state's 40-year-old right to shelter law was not meant to cover the numbers that we're seeing now. Sarah, there's some who want to lift a similar law in New York City. Do you see that happening here?
Gosh, I sure hope not. Our immigrant neighbors are coming here because they're fleeing harm, poverty, and persecution. And our response has to be one of humanitarianism and compassion. The response cannot be to upend a law that is keeping families and children safe and off the streets. There are enough resources here to go around. They may need to be reallocated in a different way. But the Massachusetts right to shelter law is an important law to keep on the books. And we need federal help to keep these families safe. And we need federal help in particular with work authorization. It does not have to take this long to process work authorization for migrants. And these are families and individuals who want to work. My clients want to work. They want to be in the community, contributing to their neighborhoods and their families. And they just want to be able to do so with the authorization of the federal government.
Elizabeth, you have over 100 organizations in your coalition. What are you hearing from them? Where are the gaps and what are they suggesting can be done?
It's a great question. There are many gaps, unfortunately, right now. And yet there's such a desire from so many of our member organizations to help be a part of filling those gaps. So many frontline community-based organizations have stretched their resources to provide food, including culturally competent food, the food that the newcomers actually want to be eating. Folks are providing case management services, but there's a lot of gaps. We need more English language opportunities for folks to learn English, which is so essential to joining the workforce. There's a need for more workplace training opportunities. And all of these kinds of services and investments help immigrants then begin to give back.
And Sarah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the federal government's response or lack thereof to asylum seekers.
Yeah, I've been disappointed in the federal government's response. Look, people are coming to the United States not on a whim, not because they have a choice. It's because they have no choice. They're coming here fleeing poverty and persecution and natural disaster. And they're coming here because it's the best shot they have of making a better life for themselves and their families. And this is a country that has historically always relied on the cheap and readily available labor of migrants. And so the federal government needs to take responsibility for that and provide the kinds of resources that these migrants need and deserve in order to work and contribute to their families and communities. We can make this work if the federal government shows that it has the political will to do so.
You know, immigration reform, obviously a hotbed political issue. After criticizing former President Donald Trump and Republican plans for a border wall, the Biden administration says it's going to continue construction. Sarah, why did the abrupt change, even though Biden campaigned against it and has said he doesn't think it will help?
You know, it's very disappointing. This is not what I hoped, what many advocates hoped for. I can only imagine that he believes that this is a winning political strategy. But, you know, unauthorized migration is going to continue. despite variations in policy over the last 3 presidents, from all-out enforcement under the Trump administration to, sometimes more compassionate approaches, the flow of unauthorized migration has not changed in really any meaningful way. And I don't think that construction of a border wall will change it either, because we rely on the available labor of migrants to keep our economy afloat. And people are fleeing very real harm and persecution where they have no choice but to take their families and leave the country with the hope of a better life in the United States. So I'm really disappointed in the Biden administration, not only because I think this is an inhumane policy and decision, but also I don't think it will get him the results that he thinks it will.
All right, Elizabeth, the last question to you. What do you think is the most sustainable or the right path forward for immigration in this country?
Well, again, I would emphasize that first and foremost, we do need to see comprehensive immigration reform. But in the absence of that, the Biden administration does have so many tools available to expedite and grant more work authorizations to more of the immigrants arriving. And we hope that that happens and that it allows so many of these newcomers to then get work and start contributing and helping us solve our workforce challenges here in Massachusetts.
All right, Elizabeth Sweet, Executive Director of MIRA, and Sarah Sherman Stokes of the BU School of Law, thank you both for joining us.